Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF, Bava Metzia Ein Ches. So we are right on top. Pshita, the following halacha is clear. Let's say, Boy Lizvune B'mea, a fellow decided to sell a small tiny field worth 100, because that's the amount of money that he needs. Okay, so he's looking to sell a small piece of property. Now he could not find a customer for that small property, which compelled him to sell a larger tract of land worth $200. So he was motivated by finance. He needed money, right? His goal was to raise the 100. He was forced to sell a larger piece of land for 200. And he's running after the buyer. Where's my money? So he's sending him invoice after invoice, and the fellow has not yet paid for the field. So although he made a physical acquisition, he made a chazaka, let's say, loikani, it doesn't work. There's no kinyan, because Rashi says, Anan Sadi, we know for a fact that the seller was selling due to his, financial constraints. He was trying to raise money. And, he can say, look, unless you pay me, I don't want the sale to happen. Right? He doesn't really need to sell $200 worth of property. He's doing it because he really has no choice. But he wants that $100 back so he can go ahead and quickly buy another small piece of property for the extra 100 that he doesn't. Right? So bottom line is, until you pay me, there's no deal. Because he's after the money. Okay? That's his main motivating factor. Unless he gets paid, the deal was not completed. That's pretty clear. Ella, however, let's say, once again, he's trying to sell off a relatively small piece of land worth 100. Now, it didn't come easily, right? He looked around, nobody was buying. He didn't put too much effort into it. If he would have put more effort, if he would have gone on an extensive, advertising spree, v'torach, with the right effort, perhaps he would have located a buyer for the small property. So rather than putting in that effort, what did he do? He sold a larger piece of land. So he sort of, had the option if he would have put in more effort, but it wasn't worth his while. He sold it off for 200. And he's coming in and out for his money. Basically, he's pursuing his customer and sending him invoices demanding payment. How would you deal with this case? Shall we say the fact that he failed to exercise his options and to really make a good effort at finding a customer for the smaller property, doesn't that indicate that he's, perhaps trying to really unload this large piece of land? It's like the case we had yesterday, selling it due to its inferior quality. Otherwise, he would have made a more extensive effort at preserving this property and not having to sell. So bottom line is, perhaps he's not really motivated. His goal isn't really to get that money. Rather, the point is to unload the field. That's his main motivating factor. In which case, he is more than willing to give it away and have the customer be kind even before he actually pays that money. Or not. No. He's compelled to sell his property due to his financial constraints, and until he actually gets his money, there's no kinyan. Take it, we'll leave it standing. Sachar sachamor, v'sakader, sechar lene maton. So Mishnah speaks about a fellow who hired a driver to bring these materials, and it's a davar ha'avid. Time is very much of essence, and they backed out. You go ahead and you hire even more expensive workers on their account, or he fools them. He misleads them into somehow taking the job by promising them more, etc. Ad kama seicher alein. Until what point How much can he charge them? Meaning, let's say they started their job and they quit in the middle. It's a davar of it. He's distressed. He's got to find replacements. Replacements are charging more. Okay, now he can bill that extra to the first workers and deduct it from their fee. Until what point? Amar Nachman ad kedei schar. They're owed 100 for their work. You can up the salary of the replacements up until 100 beyond the norm, which he will now tack on, which he will deduct from the first worker's salary, up until the amount that he owes them, right? So you can sort of cancel their payment. That's the limit. Here's a brisa. $40, $50. There's no limit. Oh, that's speaking about an unusual case. The original laborers had left their equipment behind in his possession. So now he has a collateral, so he can go ahead and charge him up. Hire new workers, replacement workers, even at a higher rate, up until you reach the value of that equipment, which he can apply towards the salary of the replacements. Sachamer, says the Mishnah, Lalicha Bahar. He rented a donkey to carry his load up on the mountain. That was the plan. Lalicha Babika, instead he took it down to the valley. Or Babika, the intention was to go down to the valley where it's more humid and warm. Lalicha Bahar, and brought up to the mountain. Even if both routes are equal in length, 10 mile here, 10 mile here, Umeis, and it died, but he deviated from the original route. Chayav, he's responsible for any consequences, because perhaps the change of location contributed to the death of the animal. We have a similar halacha. He rented a donkey for a mountain trip. Instead, it was a valley trip. If the animal slipped down in the valley and something happened, then the renter is potter, because you know what? If it was going to slip, right? It certainly would have slipped up on the mountain where it's more slippery. So if anything, I protected it by bringing it down to the valley. If that was the cause of injury or death, I'm potter. Likewise, but if the animal overheated, that can be attributed to the valley environment. So now he's chayiv, because who asked you to take it down to the valley? You didn't tell me you're going there. Let's say he rented it for the valley. Instead, he took it to the mountain. Here, if it slipped, he's chayiv because the mountain is slippery. If it got overheated and that's why it died, he's potter, because if anything, it would have been worse off in the depth of the valley. If anything, I protected your animal, I'm potter. But if it got overheated because they had to make that effort to climb up the mountain, then, of course, the seicher is chayiv. So, in the Seifa, in the second part of the Mishnah, we have this distinction between, this cause of death and the other cause of death. But interestingly, in the Reisha, in the first part of the Mishnah, we have no distinction, we have no chiluk, no discussion about cause of death. Any change of environment is chayiv. So why is there no distinction? The Gemara will deal with that. Okay? Continues the Mishnah. He hired a donkey, and the donkey got some sort of semi-blindness, some sort of cataract, which makes it difficult to ride. But in any case, it can be done. Or let's say the animal was taken to serve the king's authorities. So basically, Rashi explains later that you're on the road and suddenly the king's servants come by and they need a hitch. They grab your donkey and you have to follow them. They take your donkey and they take it up to the next road stop where they switch it with another donkey, which they grab from the next fellow. So let's say it happens to rented donkey, so the owner can tell the renter, too bad, your mazel contributed to this mishap, and go deal with it. Take your donkey. It's still around. Perhaps you'll have to wait to get it back, etc. But, it's still yours, and I don't have to replace it. But, let's say it died or collapsed, broke apart, you have to replace it because I promised you a donkey. Now back to that question. Why in the Reisha do we have no distinction between causes of death? In the Sefer we do have discussion about causes of death. In the Reisha we say, look, no difference why it died. It was supposed to be in the valley, it's up on the mountain, as opposed to the Sefer, we find a very in-depth discussion as per cause of death. Amrit v'Rabbi. So the answer was like this. In the Reisha, it just died naturally. It didn't slip, it didn't overheat, right? It just died. So we attribute it to the change of air, of atmosphere. Right? The mountain has a different type of oxygen level than the valley, etc. So we attribute it to that, and he's fully responsible. Damrina, we say, Avira the Harkatla, Avira the Bika Katla, certainly was the air up in the mountain that killed it. Too little oxygen, too much oxygen. We say, Avira the Bika Katla, the air in the valley killed it. So it doesn't matter, we make no distinction. Because we don't necessarily see a visible correlation between location and cause of death, so we attribute it to the change of environment. As opposed to the Seifa, where we see, look, it slipped, that's why it died. So we say, look, it certainly would have slipped more on the mountain. Or if it overheated, we attribute it to the warm weather in the Bika. Another similar answer, that the Reish is speaking where the animal died because of overexhaustion. So we say, look, who asked you to schlep it up to the mountain? That's why it got exhausted and it died. Who asked you to take it down to the valley? There isn't enough oxygen down there. And that's why it got, it weakened and it got overexhausted and died. So there, either way is chai. Rabba Nachash was speaking that it died due to a snake bite. And we know that in that location, where you shouldn't have been, there are snakes. Rabbi Yehuda, another teretz. Hamani Rabbi Meir. Who's speaking in the Reisha of the Mishnah? It's Rabbi Meir. The Omar who says, if you deviate from the owner's instructions, he told you to take it to the valley. What business do you have taken up to the mountain? Nikro Gazlan is called a Gazlan, and what happens when you're a Gazlan? Rashi says, a Gazlan is fully responsible even for accidents. So we don't care, we don't investigate causes of death. Doesn't matter why. The fact is you're a Gazlan. Whereas the next part of the Mishnah is the Rabbanon, who don't take it that far. Even if he deviated, he's not labeled a Gazlan. So it's only about what happened and who caused it. Okay? Hi Rav Meir, where do we find this Shita Rav Meir? Any sort of deviation is called a Gazlan. We'll have several attempts. It's going to take us down to the bottom here. Okay? Ilay Rav Meir that Saba. Let's take a look at Rav Meir in the Mishnah of that Saba, the fellow who's meant to dye wool, and he did it the wrong color. The Snan on this in Sema. Saba, he hands wool, raw material to a dyer. Let's buy the Adam to make it red. Tzavei Shachar, he dyed it black. Shachar, Tzavei Adam, supposed to be black, did it, made it red. Rabbi Yehuda made similar. The fact is he's a Gazlan, wrong color, you're a Gazlan. So you compensate the customer for his wool, but you keep the finished product, it's yours. Rabbi Yehuda, no, it's not yours, it belongs to the owner. And the owner will pay the dyer, the lesser of the two amounts. Ima shavach, right? There are two factors here. How much did he invest? How much raw material was used? And the dyer, how much dye did he put into the job? And how much did the item increase in value, rise in value due to this work? So he gets the lesser of the two amounts. Ima shvach yasser al yitzia. So bottom line is the product goes back to the owner, but the owner pays the tzaba the lesser of the following two amounts. Ima shvach yasser al yitzia, if it rose in value more than the actual ingredients that were used, meaning the expenses were less than the item benefited, and the item rose in value. The owner pays him for his expenses and he's done. If the shvach is less than the actual money invested, the owner pays him the amount that the item rose in value. So bottom line, Rameir says any deviation is a gazlan. And that corresponds with our Mishnah as well. How can you connect the two things, says the Gemara. Remember, the Tzaba, he didn't just take it for a walk at the wrong place. He actually changed there was a material change in the actual item. Shini Maasa. It's supposed to be black, he made it red. Of course he's a gazlan. How could you connect it to our Mishnah where he simply took the chamor to the wrong location? There was no Shini Maasa. Okay, so that's out. Elo Rav Meir, we found this from Rav Meir, that you meant to stick to the owner's instructions, otherwise you're a gazlan. The Magbis Purim. You speak about a Purim collection, stuck a collection on Purim. The sign, Magbis Purim la Purim. Stucca collected on Purim for Purim purposes is meant to be used on Purim and not left over for a different day. Right? So it's meant to be used for Sudas Purim for the Aniyim. Magbis Ha'ir, a local stucca collection for the local residents, is meant to be funneled to the local cause. Lo Yisa'ir. Now back to right, and we don't say, look, well, they don't need this much, and let's divert the rest of, let's say it's stuck, right? It's Purim, right? So we don't say, well, there's enough money for Purim, and let's just give them a small suda and the rest for regular stuck. We don't do that. Rather, what do? We buy a herd of calves, we eat it for the aniyim for Purim. Whatever's left behind, will go to tzedakah. So we make the attempt to feed them all on Purim. Once again, if a person collects for Purim, it's meant to be used on Purim. Even the ani himself can't divert it to buy a strap for his shoe. Unless he stipulated in the presence of the city council. This is Rameir, right? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says no. He's leaning on this. He says the Gabayit Staka, the Aniyim, they can redirect the monies, because the fact is that the donors don't really care as long as it's benefiting, at the best possible, in the best possible way. Bottom line, Rabbi Meir is very strict. He donated for Purim, got to stick to Purim. Apparently, you cannot deviate from the owner's instructions. Says the Gemara, hold it. Again, you can't compare to our sugya with the Chamar, Dil Mahasam Nami, the Adat, the Purim, the Avilei. Fact is, over there, he donated his $10 for Purim. Adat, the Min Achrin, if you can use it for something else, I'm not giving it to you, it's still mine. As opposed to the fellow who took the donkey for a ride. Look, the fact is, he had a right to use the donkey. So it's not like he actually made such a drastic change. You can't compare the two things. Elo Rameir, let's attempt a different Rameir. The Sani of Shimon Lazoim Rameir. A person donates $1 to an ani to buy himself a robe. He can't use it for a talis, for a different type of garment. Or he donated a tal for a talis. He can't use it to buy. You know why? As per instructions. You got to stick to the donor's instructions. There you go. Rav Meir is very strict on this. Vidul Mashani Hasim says perhaps there's a special reason. The Asal Mikhshadi, people might suspect the donor of not fulfilling his commitment, his pledge. People are going to say, look, remember the fellow got up in Shul and he pledged a robe. Amar Plani Ruben declared that Zavnina Levush Planiani is going to buy. I'm going to buy a nice shirt for the ani. He didn't buy him a lavush. He didn't buy him a robe. He bought him he bought him something. He got himself a shirt. Right. The bottom line is he pledged a robe lavusha, and you see the ani didn't get a robe. If the ani is allowed to deviate, right? Inami, or the other way around. Zavnina Glima promised to buy him a talis. Look, he didn't buy him a talis. The ani's walking around with a robe, not a talis. So perhaps that's the reason why you have to be meticulous. Well, if that's the reason, McCain, listening, the Brisa should explain itself. The ani cannot redirect the money because of this chashat concern. So does the Brisa say that? No. Why does the Brisa provide a different explanation? Because you can't violate the Balabais' words. Apparently the problem is because he's changing. A person doesn't listen, he's a gazlan. Likewise now, Mishnah, he took the chamor up to the mountain, you're a gazlan. So bottom line, you have two parts of the Mishnah. You have the ratio which says any sort of deviation, he's chayev. That's Rameir speaking. Where do we find Rameir? In the story with the Ani, with the Talis and the Chaluk. Part 2 of the Mishnah, where the animal died, but we investigate as per the cause of death and whether it could be attributed to the change of location. That's the Rabbanan. We don't take it as far as Rameir. Look, even though you changed, you deviated, fact is we have to figure out what happened and whether it was caused by this change of location, which makes him responsible, or not, in which case he's exempt. So you hired a donkey, you rented a donkey, and vivrika. What is that? My vivrika. Here in Bava, they interpreted narisa, some sort of eye issue. Rabba ma'avzakas, some sort of mold or something that's eating away at the animal's legs and gives him a hard time to walk. This fellow one day gets up and tells the king's servants, look, I noticed some avzakas in the king's royal clothing. So they asked him, where? In the linen or the wool? But it's like kesef in the silver garments. Silver is like white, so the white linen garments. Or the gold garments. Gold is like red, so the red woolen garments. Where do you see it? So there are two versions as per his response. Some say he responded like kesef, Amar, the linen stuff, because they killed him because it's impossible for this mold to be present in the linen. Some say Amar, he said it was in the woolen begadim shafkur. They left him alone because it could be that it was true. Sangaria is where the king's servants grabbed his chamar. Too bad on you. The masker, the renter, does not have to replace it. Amar Rav Leishon, that's only true about Angari Chayzeres if he is going to get it back within his rental period. Aval Angari Shein Chayzeres, but if they took it, they're not going to return it within the rental period, then he lost the use of this animal completely. Chayiv L'Hamal L'Chamor, so the owner has to replace it. Or Shmuel disagrees. Bein Angari Chayzeres, or Bein Angari Shein Chayzeres, whether or not it's going to come back soon, that's not the determining factor. Rather, it's like this. It depends in which direction he was going. Let's say he was going from New York to Toronto, and the king's servants were also going in the same direction and grabbed this donkey. So then, he has to follow them and get at the next road stop on the thruway. The owner can say, look, go after them and find it. But let's say they were going in the opposite direction. They were going back to New York and they grabbed it, going the other way. So it's unfair to compel him to follow them backwards. So then the owner have to replace it. Because the Brisa says, right? He rented the donkey and it had this blindness, or it got crazy, and you can't use it for proper riding, proper, loading. The owner can say, look, take your donkey. But Mesa, let's say it completely died, it was seized by the authorities, he has to replace it. Unlike the Mishnah, which says by Ingarya, the owner can say, look, find the donkey and use it. So now, according to Rav, it could be answered very simply. Depends how long they intend on holding the animal. The Mishnah is speaking where the animal is going to return within the rental period. But the Brisa, which requires a replacement, it's not going to come back too soon. According to Shmuel, how do we understand the difference between the Mishnah and the Brisa? Now, according to Shmuel, we could also answer a similar teretz. Well, it depends on which direction they were going, right? Mishnah is speaking that they were going in the same direction as this fellow. Brisa speaking they're going in the opposite direction, so he deserves a replacement. Is that the pshat? It can't be. Why? Because the next part of the Brisa speaks like this. Rabbi Shimon Lazar Eimer, so quotes Shimon Lazar that is direction dependent. If it's on his way, the owner can say, look, go find the animal. But if it's going the opposite direction, he has to replace it. So that's Shimon Lazar's sheet. Apparently the first sheet in the Brisa, which we quoted earlier, does not make this distinction between which direction he's going. That's a kasha on Shmuel, who doesn't make that distinction. Shmuel responds, okay, fine. Lav mi ikar Reb Elazar b'Shimon Elazar kavasi. At least I'm following Shimon Elazar's sheet. Okay, that's my sheet. Another Amri, Shimon Elazar. I'm going to go with that sheet. Iboye same. Another terrace to the kasha is like this. Cool. Look, Reb Shimon Elazar. Truthfully, the entire price is Reb Shimon speaking. There's no machlokes. Everybody, this whole price of Reb Shimon Elazar. The price is meant to be learned as though it's missing some words, as follows. Right, so that's one episode. Oynishtat is another episode. Oymerloi tells him, too bad, enjoy it. But Mesa totally died. Oyshnasan guy was seized. He has to replace it. When is that true? Let's say they grabbed it going the other way. But let's say they took it going in the right direction. In this case, no replacement is due. Take your animal and use it. Wait patiently until you get the animal back. Divrei, who's speaking? Reb Shimon Elazar. And the Brisa continues, Shai Reb Shimon Elazar, because he held. In fact, that it depends on direction. B'derech hilucha nitla, Oymerlei tells him, Harish l'chanecha. But otherwise, Im Lav is going the other way. Chai lam l'chamaracha, he has to replace it. And this fits exactly with Shmuel. Asks the Gemara, really? How could you attribute the whole Brisa to Shimon Elazar? Take a look at the first part of the Brisa. Had that blindness. Got crazy. Oymerlei tells him, too bad. Make the best of it. Right? That's the Brisa. Problem is, according to Shimon Elazar, we find that halacha is a bit different. He says, if a fellow hires a donkey, he rents a donkey for personal riding, and these things happen to, the owner has to replace it. That's inconsistent with the Brisa, which says he doesn't have to replace. Amar Rav Bar Huna. Well, even if Shimon agrees, if the animal was rented to transport goods, but here it's different. He was speaking about lirka v'lea, to personally ride on it. That's shiny. It's very different. It's very difficult to ride on a donkey that's jumping around, right? So here it's different. Amar Rav Papa adds, ukleis chuches. If it was hired, if it was rented to transport delicate, fragile, glass items, we treat it like a personal ride, which basically requires a proper donkey, and if any of these things happen to it, the owner has to substitute it with another chamor. Okay, so we started with a fellow who sold off a property. In some cases, he's motivated by his need for financing, in which case, until he gets the money, it's not considered a full deal. We had the halacha of davar avad. You can hire for more expensive and bill the first workers who backed out midway. A fellow took the chamar to the wrong location. He's chayev. According to Rameir, is very much chayev in all situations. According to Rabban, only if you can attribute the location, the cause of the death, the cause of death to the actual change of location. We have a case of hivrika, asasangaria, who we say, look, enjoy it, make the best of it. Within Angari, you find several distinctions, and we concluded with a case of nishtatis or hivrika, where we say that lirka velea or kleis chuchis requires a healthy, sane, reliable donkey. Otherwise, the owner has to replace it. All the best to you, and that's lachara.